Test.
Check. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock, and we'll be convening the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025. It is 6 p.m. Chelsea, if you would please call the roll to establish a quorum.
Carl West, Brett Chumley, Louis Burks, Darrell Wood, John Clements, Pamela Gibson, Jim Stillwell,
Here,
Mark Chilton, Andy Warford.
we do have a quorum. We'll be moving on to item 2, the approval of the minutes from March 4th, 2025 Planning and Zoning meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item 3, the Board of Adjustments. There are no items listed under Board of Adjustments, so we'll be moving on to item 4, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Item A, 1601 Hudson Street, rezone from R2 to R7. Chelsea, if you would please read the request.
Garnett Engineering on behalf of Folsom Holdings. Commissioner Chilton's recusing himself.
Yes, we have one commissioner who has recused from the first 2 items on the agenda. Moving on with item A, Chelsea will read the request.
Garnett Engineering on behalf of Folsom Holdings LLC is requesting approval of a rezone at 1601 Hudson Street. This property is currently zoned R2, which is single-family district detached housing, and they are requesting this property be rezoned to R7, which is multifamily residential district. All questions and comments from Benton Utilities and City of Benton have been approved.
Thanks, Chelsea. And for the record, Carl West has entered the meeting. It is 6:02. Is there someone here that wishes to speak? If you would state your name and please sign the book. Are there questions from the commission for Mr. Williams? If there are none, do I hear a motion to approve? We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Chelsea, please call the roll.
Brett Chumley, Lois Burks, Darrell Wood, John Clements, Pamela Gibson, Mark Chilton.
Recused.
Oh, I'm sorry, he did recuse. Andy Warford,
We have 7 yes, 1 recusal. The motion passes. Moving on to item B, 1712 Thomas Road, rezone from R2 to C3. Chelsea, if you would please read the request.
Barnes Engineering, on behalf of Folsom Holdings LLC, is requesting approval of a rezone at 1712 Thomas Road. Property is currently zoned R2, which is single-family district detached housing, and they are requesting this property be rezoned to C3, which is service commercial. All questions and comments from big utilities in the city of Benton have been approved.
Thank you, Chelsea. Mr. Williams, you will be addressing this issue as well. Are there questions from the commission? Apparently being none, do I hear a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Chelsea, if you would please call the roll.
Brett Chumley, Lois Burks, Darrell Wood, John Clements, Pamela Gibson, Mark Chilton, I'm sorry, he recused again. Andy Warford,
We have 7 yes and 1 recusal. The item passes. Moving on to item C, Winchester Drive, preliminary plat.
Hope Consulting and Kennedy Development is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for Winchester Drive. All fees have been paid and requirements have been met in accordance with City of Benton subdivision ordinance. City of Benton staff and utility staff questions and comments have all been addressed and approved. I did want to clarify that the planning commissioners reviewed this, well, not the plat, but a rezone request last month. They had requested to be rezoned to R3. It was denied, failed due to lack of motion. They have now updated this plat, the one that you have, to go with the R2 zoning regulations, which is what the current zone of that property is.
Good evening, Jonathan Hope with Hope Consulting. Like Chelsea said previously, we have proposed a rezoning for more density on this property. A lot of the feedback that we've heard was concerned with drainage. I've submitted a drainage report. I've given you guys a few copies to kind of show the details of what we're doing. The detention pond on this is about 3 times the size of required by ordinance. If you see that drainage report, page 4, you'll notice that I've kind of highlighted some items there, but we're reducing the current runoff by 1/3. So by ordinance, we're required to do exactly equal, keep it the same, right? So 50 CFS today running off into the creek. After, we need to keep it the same, but we're reducing that now by 1/3. So concerns over drainage, we're keeping everything underground, going to the detention pond. There's no water, runoff water from this improvement area running towards the Heritage Farms area. We're 410 feet at the closest point to Heritage Farm, so there's a tremendous amount of green space left on this development. We're about 42 acres, developing about 20. So we've got a tremendous amount of area we are not touching. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've given the drainage report. We've done all of the, I've got construction drawings now to back, what we're doing, what we're saying. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions from the commissioners?
we're catching all the water with underground storm and then also putting it in a detention pond and reducing it by a third. So none of the water is going towards Heritage Farms. It's all going to the west, towards the creek. We're catching it in the pond. And that's what I'm saying. The pond is between us and the development. So before it goes into the creek, we're reducing the speed that it's exiting by a third. So it's going to be better with this project. It's 3 times the size by ordinance. It's not going to overflow. It's gigantic.
Thanks, Commissioner West. Are there other questions or comments from the other commissioners?
Jonathan, the
Yes, sir.
big question was water.
Right.
Not bats, but water
Yes.
last time. And, are we gonna be able to keep the water off Millbrook?
Yes, yes, yeah, absolutely. So our-
Millbrook was the big problem.
Right, right. So all of this water is coming from right to left, east to west. So it's flowing towards that creek.
Okay.
We're gonna put everything underground. The lots are gonna slope to the streets. Everything will go underground, be piped directly to this pond. It's gonna be huge. And then it'll be metered off the pond slowly into the creek. So it'll actually help.
It'll help Millbrook.
It'll help. I mean, it'll actually help. Absolutely, 100%. The amount of water going to that creek you're talking about on the west side of our property, we account for about 1% of the water that's going into that. All of the water, is coming from across the interstate and from Crane. It's coming from Everett. It's coming from behind Everett up there on Long Hills. There's a lot of water that goes through there, no doubt. And our project accounts for about 1% of that, and then we're reducing that by a third.
The drainage calculations in the little sheets that we have going each direction actually lists, the current water flows.
Yeah.
And then the water flows that will be after the development is made.
So that's on page 4 of that drainage report. It details out how much we're reducing.
Okay.
Commissioner Gibson?
Good question. Yeah. So the state fire code allows for those type of turnarounds, but the street department actually mentioned they want a cul-de-sac there. So we've redesigned to put a cul-de-sac there instead of the stub out or hammerhead. And so although the fire code allows that, the city of Benton Street Department mentioned they would rather have a cul-de-sac there, so we've redesigned it to put a cul-de-sac there. Yes, yeah, I've got a new drawing, but it'll be reflected in the picture. Good question. Yes, no, good question. Well, we were able to get everything to go to this one, and it's gonna be great. So everything, at that point, we didn't have full construction drawing design figured out. Since then, we've had plenty of time to make sure that we could put this all in one area. And the last time, if you recall, we had an entrance crossing the creek. So we were gonna have to go into the creek and work in the creek and cross over, kind of where Leah's Gymnastics is in the fire department. Since then, we've moved that access point to the north, connecting, to Winchester, which is going to be fantastic for traffic. You know, I don't think anybody would really, very few people would go south towards Denise, you know, when you can access to Winchester directly, right there behind Everett.
Other questions from the commission?
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Come forward, state your name, and sign the book.
My name is Donna Reynolds, and I did not come here to speak on this particular item, but since I'm
Miss-
here,
Ms. Reynolds,
uh-huh.
we are, really need to speak on this item only.
Okay, that's what I want to speak on this item.
Okay, very good.
Um,
I misunderstood.
There will be another one, but my mother lives on Edge Hill Drive, which that creek that he's referring to backs right up to her house. And it only takes about an inch of rain for her yard to flood. And one of the reasons why is because the creek is not maintained. It's full of trash, it's full of fallen trees. So any extra water that they're going to put into that creek is going to cause major flooding in that subdivision that's on that lower end on the other side of Alcoa Road. They get water from up the hill, they get water from Pauline, they get water down from the Alcoa Road. There's a lot of water going into that area. She calls the city multiple times each year to get them to come and clean it out. They'll come down there with a backhoe and work just a little bit for one day, and then they leave. It's a mess back there. She even mentioned it today when I was there, and she's worried about the rain that we're about to have in the next few days, because if we get 3 inches of rain, her yard, possibly her home, will be flooded. And she deals with this every day that it rains. She pays an extremely large amount of money to FEMA for flood control. A large amount of money for a single 87-year-old woman. So I really wish that you guys would take this into consideration, that there are other people on the other side of Alcoa that are suffering because of all of this new construction and stuff. So any amount of water that goes into that creek is going to be a problem on that side of the road. So, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Reynolds, for participating in the process as well as everybody else. Thank you for being here while we have this commission. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Being none, is there a motion to approve item C, Winchester Drive? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Chelsea, please call the roll.
Warford. Mark Chilton. Pamela Gibson. John Clements. Darrell Wood. Lois Burks. Brett Chumley. Carl West.
We have 7 yes and 1 no. The item passes. Moving on to item D, Dobbs Creek preliminary plat within our ETJ. Chelsea, if you would please read the request.
Davidson Engineering is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for Dobbs Creek. This property is located outside of Benton city limits, but is located within city planning area. Developers do plan to annex this piece of property in order to utilize city services. All fees have been paid, requirements have been met in accordance with City of Benton subdivision regulations. I did want to clarify that the annexation process will have to start before we will review anything else on this subdivision, but we can review the preliminary plat without the annexation.
you would, since we are not familiar with Cersei Engineers, if you would please state your name and sign the book.
Sure, thank you. Bear Davidson with Davidson Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant, Meyer Land Consulting. This is a project we're excited about, this Dobbs Creek addition. As Ms. Matthews stated, this is a 322 lot subdivision within the ETJ. It's adjacent to Mountain View Road. What's before you tonight is the preliminary plat. A few things I wanted to note, call attention to. These were discussed at the PRC, but I wanted to bring them up again tonight. First, we've got some hurdles, water and sewer extensions that are to be required if we're able to move forward. We have met with Benton Utilities in their office and continue to work with them to move towards a good solution to those water and sewer extensions that would be required. Secondly, as Chelsea stated, this would require annexation. Our hope is that if receiving a pre-plat approval, we could then work towards the annexation prior to beginning to work on detailed construction drawings, which of course would have to be submitted back through the city for review and approval. Lastly, regarding access, we have two access points on Mountain View Road. The state fire code dictates how far apart those must be. Ours are closer together than what's called for, and so the state fire code requires, based on that, that each home be sprinkled. So what's before you tonight is a plat that would require homes to be sprinkled. I'll add that we're working on a second, or I guess it would be a third access point that would negate that. For the time being, we can stomach sprinkling the homes if that's what it comes to, but we'll continue to work towards the third access if the pre-plat is approved and we get to work towards annexation as well. So that's a brief summary. I'm sure you may have questions. I'll try to answer them.
Are there questions from the commission?
We would be required to, based on conversations we've had within utilities, really before we start doing detailed engineering design, we'd have to annex.
What we would do is whenever the annexation paperwork, would just make sure that all the requirements are met and either annex it as R2 preferably, but if there are lots that are approved within the preliminary plat that are smaller than the required 7,000 square feet R2 zone, then we would probably move towards R3. And I think that that's what we're looking at here. Yes. Right. But since it's not zoned right now, I couldn't tell him which zone requirements to go off of. Need to be. Right, but since it's not zoned currently because it's in the ETJ, we can't.
Keeping in mind this is preliminary plat.
Yeah, we don't have authority to tell them how big. The annexation has to be approved by us as well, and the city council. No, because it's not currently zoned, so we can't dictate the zone because it's outside of city limits, so it's not zoned.
When and if the preliminary is approved, then we can dictate the zone
At the annexation.
after the end.
If,
Theoretically, Carl, yeah.
yeah, but whenever they annex and we decide on which zone, then it would have to change depending on the approved zone.
Then their plat would have to come back to this body.
So are we talking about the plat right now, or are we talking about
We're talking
annexation?
about the preliminary.
Okay.
So, Bear, did you?
From my knowledge, yes.
We just approved a 84 lot subdivision on 60 acres. You're proposing putting 322 houses on 60 acres. I think we made a mistake a few months ago when we approved something like this for Rouse Coleman on North Shore. I will not be voting for it. And I can tell y'all, everything changes.
I really
There will
appreciate
probably be
your,
houses there one day.
Mr. Chilton, hang in there a minute. I appreciate everyone's enthusiasm. We are trying to move this meeting along, so if you could hold your applause until the very end and then do a
Never
standing
get
ovation.
applause. That's the only time I've ever got applause.
And they weren't for you, Mark. I'm sorry. Back to order.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Clarity? Thank you. If the pre-plat was approved based on some of the comments, and during the annexation process, a zone was approved in which certain lot sizes didn't meet that zone, would we not be able to adjust lot lines between pre and final plat to meet those zones? Thank you.
Correct. Correct. Yes,
Only
so they would have to
49 of them
reconfigure.
are 7,000 square feet. I counted.
So they would have to reconfigure the lot lines at that.
That's the goal.
Yes, he did.
Our goal is to have an exit on the west end. The southern entrance road, what we have called as Dobbs Creek Road, it's parallel and adjacent to the cemetery, so it would be an improved access to the cemetery from what's there now. I'll answer that if that's okay. Yes,
Sure, go
ma'am.
ahead.
Thank you for the question. One of the roads that we have shown in the plat, borders, it's adjacent to the northern boundary of that cemetery. So it could, and it would be a public roadway. So it would be access to the cemetery for folks that are trying to access the cemetery. Yes,
Here's
the north side of the cemetery.
Before we go to comments from the public, are there other questions from the commission? Also, everyone keep in mind that any decision that this body makes can be overturned by the city council. Keep that. Only, yeah, for the annexation portion.
It is. And I'll add, it's extremely unlikely it would be built in one phase. This is a preliminary plat, so if we were to, that's right. That's right. I don't have a house size, can't answer that. I know. I honestly tend not to ask questions about if folks own their home or rent it. We could ask those questions at planning commission meetings. My stance has always been that folks aren't worse neighbors because they have to rent their home than somebody that can afford to buy it. So generally don't ask that question.
but we don't have a bill of assurance like we did on the previous subdivision that talks about whether you have a carport, minimum square footage, where you can park. You've got a 15-foot setback from the front of the house to the road. So if I park my truck in the driveway, no one can walk down the sidewalk.
Well, in your,
For this subdivision? I didn't see it. The subdivisions, John, on Chelsea, Centennial Valley, and all those phases that are built through there, they were all R2, correct? But they were all 7,000 square feet, correct? I thought they were, because I think I remember questioning the developers about some that fell short of that. Okay.
Are there other questions from the commission? If there are none at this point, we can go ahead and begin the process of allowing the public to be heard. And I will be glad to do that. If you would please state your name and sign the book. I will respectfully ask you to keep your comments at under 3 minutes, and I will respectfully remind you that your time is up, if you would honor that.
Thank you all. My name is John McQuarrie, but I believe most of y'all know me as Jack. This proposed area backs up to mine and Crystal's land over on North Beggs. And I will say that he is correct that they are trying to get fire lanes over to this proposed area. But my biggest, and I'd have to say mine and Chris's biggest concerns on this. Guys, since I had my heart surgery, my hand is shaky as all get out. Our biggest concerns on this, and y'all picked right up on it. You're cramming in a ton of houses on a little bitty piece of land. And the houses, number one, they can't be large enough to build with any significant safety with them. It's just absolutely horrible to us. I mean, we love where we live out there because we're just far enough out that my wife can have her horses. Our kids have run free and have been able to enjoy Saline County. But this is just moving in a small little New York City out there right next to us. And it's all tiny, tiny homes. It will be a nightmare, and that is not what Saline County wants, and that is not what Benton wants if Benton decides to annex out there. You know, we just wanted to voice our opinions on this just right off the bat while y'all are looking at it, that there's a bunch of us that are against this totally, especially the way that it's written up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your participation. Are there, certainly. Are there others that wish to speak regarding points that may have not been made? I want everybody to get to have their say, whoever wishes to come forward next. Ms. Dawson. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty
I am-
small.
I am so
You didn't
sorry,
see me.
sir. You came up on my blind side. You hadn't noticed.
My name is Richard Ackley. I'm a professional engineer in Arkansas been an engineer for about 50 years. And there's a number of concerns I have with this. Just one concern is Mountain View Road itself. The sight distances on that road in that area are very poor. And to have any kind of safety at all with the road, especially particularly with two roads coming out of there, it'd be a disaster basically unless the whole road is rebuilt. So it would require reconstruction of Mountain View Road in that area. So that's one point. The other point is we have the Roush Coleman not very far away over at Centennial Valley. And over the years I've dealt with Roush Coleman and I've come behind them with some of the messes, dealing with some of the messes that they've made. But anyway, that size lots, it's going to be low-income housing. And I don't think the city of Benton needs any more low-income housing in that area, personally. And, that's really what I'm trying to say. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. By the way, Roush Coleman had sold to Lennar, another large construction.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Jackie Dawson. I'm a lifelong resident of Sling County and Benton. I love our community. I've lived on Mountain View Road for 47 years. The entrance and exit to this proposal is just below my house, which is a hill, and the other entrance is at the bottom of a blind curve coming from the other end of Mountain View Road. We have two entrances into Mountain View Road. That's off the frontage road, which is going to get busier and busier and busier as Buc-ee's and hotels and restaurants build. I'm not against this project. It is a beautiful area. It's a beautiful piece of property. I hike and bike all over the nation, and I've walked all over that. This could be a beautiful subdivision with 100 houses, but it is absolutely insane to even consider 320 houses on 61.89 acres. That is trouble. I can't imagine how any of you on this committee or the city council would approve such a proposal. It is not a healthy situation. We need to be building subdivisions that promote health and wellness of the people who want to live in this beautiful area. If you have never been on that road, it is a very narrow little community road. It is super busy right now with the residents that live there. We have the trade school, which is awesome. We have the elementary school, and the middle school opens this August. Again, a beautiful area to live, but it won't be if you approve 320 houses on 61.89 acres. That's asking for trouble, and a lot of trouble. And I would ask you, if you don't know, if you aren't familiar with this area, please, I'm begging you to drive by there and look at the proposed entrance and exit. I understand this is preliminary. I understand that you're looking for a different entrance and exit, but it is a hazard. It is dangerous. I took pictures of it. I sent it to all of you. It is not a safe situation.
Thanks, Ms. Dawson. I appreciate you and your comment and your participation.
My name is Clint Bowers. My wife and I are in the process of building a home off Diamond Ridge Road, which is further down Mountain View Road. I think what nobody has thought about or brought up yet, except probably Ms. Reynolds, is that at a certain point, Mountain View turns into a single-lane gravel road with a very popular public river access that gets crowded, neglected, trashed up, etc. And I think that when you put 320 families on that road, it's only gonna get worse. I think that the city and the county is not prepared or equipped or willing to widen that road to accommodate those people. The people who live down there do not want that to happen. That part of the Saline River is one of the last drainages out of the Ouachitas that has not been dammed, diked, or altered in some way. And I think that a 322 house subdivision will ruin that even more so. Not to mention, I would suspect that 50+% of these houses are gonna be bought by an investment company and are gonna be rental houses. This is obviously a community of people, and whoever inhabits these 322 houses are not going to be community oriented like this, in my opinion. That's all.
Thank you for your points. They are well taken. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, my name's Philip Montalvo. Sign in here. And looking at this plat here, my goodness, and I own, probably 20 of us here, we own 2/3 or more cemetery, which is a family cemetery. We're proposing to put 6 houses in where we go in and out right now. Look at this plat. The problem is like they say, we got 300 houses going in on 61 acres. Y'all have this plat? So if you live in the very back here, y'all have a heart attack, you're not gonna get police and fire out there to you, because you're gonna have cars parked on this side of the road, you're gonna have cars parked on this side of the road, nobody's gonna be able to get down to you. You better hope you got life alert or something, because otherwise, we've got plots for sale in the cemetery, okay? And then also, if you think about this a little bit, you look at this plat, how are you gonna get a school bus in? Cars on this side, cars on that side. You got special ed kids on buses, not saying that they'll be out there, but potential is high when you get that many people out in one spot. So you gotta think about that. And the reason I know a little bit about, I drive bus for Bryant in the mornings, and every morning, just about on these little subdivisions in and around, Coach Farmer or Scott, and you call somebody, we can't get through. There's cars on both sides of the road. So you got to think about that when you're planning, okay? I appreciate your effort, but it was very poor, in my opinion. Appreciate that. So I've called a couple of you, and I don't know the process here. If you take a vote and it passes, what's the next step? Help me out here.
Preliminary plat is approved, it goes through staff level for construction drawings, and then another final plat has to come before this body and be approved after construction drawings were approved by staff for final approval from this body.
Okay, I don't know if y'all take a vote and say no tonight, what happens next? What's the next step here?
They can come back.
They can come back.
We could also table it.
Okay.
So there are a number of options. We're just not quite there in the process.
So do we have the horse in front of the cart here? Because it sounds like we've got a drawing here, but no plans for sewer, anything else. And
That
who's gonna
comes
pay-
at construction drawings.
This is normal?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, there's so many things, if we put all those houses out there, it's gonna be displaced.
Philip,
Okay.
you are out of time, sir.
Well, I've just got started.
I am sincerely sorry, but you are out of time. We need to let someone else speak.
Okay.
Okay, Donna Reynolds. My husband Charlie and I live at basically the very end of Mountain View Road, right before you get to the river and it crosses over to Nickelville. When you hit the top of the hill, about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile back up Mountain View, that road turns into a one-lane road. When you get down near the river, it turns into a dirt road that is not very accessible to the river, and there's no place to park, but we still have a lot of people that go down there, especially in the summer. Adding this many more families living on Mountain View who will possibly want to access that river at that point, we're going to have cars parked all along that one-lane road. And we already have a lot of trash issues. We've actually picked up syringes on the side of the road, lots of other things that you don't want to know about. I really see there being even more issues with people going down to the river, especially if you're going to build very, very, very small houses and if they become rental property. We've lived there for 27 years. This is a very close-knit community. Most of us live on at least 5 acres. And we love our community in the fact that we have neighbors, but we can't shake hands out the window with our neighbor. We're not, as Jackie said, totally against the subdivision. We're against the number of houses, where this is located close to the schools. I'm a retired Benton school teacher. I taught school for 42 years. Those schools are important to our community, but all of those parents are leaving those schools on the same road where those 2 access points are. School buses leaving those schools. So the safety issues are there. In my mind, as a school teacher, I'm thinking of children, little kids, parents in cars. You put 320 homes in there, 2 cars per home, you know, you're adding 700 cars out there, easy. A lot of traffic. So I really would like for you to take into consideration mainly the number of houses and the safety issues that would come up from having that many houses in one small area. So,
Donna,
thank
you.
you.
You were out. Thank you once again.
Hello, my name is Rhonda Richards. The Moore family donated property for this cemetery that's in the drawing many, many, many years ago. There will be no access to that cemetery except for a small portion on the side of that small road. There is a road now that we use, and it would really be nice if they gave us a right-of-way or donated us some property. We will buy the property. But we need some entrance to that cemetery. And I'm done.
Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, my name is Brian Baber, and I just wanted to talk about something that hadn't been brought up. The ecosystem of Dobbs Creek. There's a lot of wildlife back there and a lot of animals, and what's going to happen to that creek? And it'll run the deer and coons and everything else we have off, and that's another consideration that I just wanted to bring up.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you being here.
My name is Michael Corker. I live directly in front of Moore Cemetery, so this is going to affect me and Dawson's probably the most. The traffic, I can't go to the mailbox. About 3 or 4 cars both ways, crossing and coming back. So you had 600 more possibly vehicles from the entrance, exit, to the stop sign, which is probably a quarter of a mile to the service road. Schools, getting out, 3 o'clock, starting 8 o'clock, the bookings coming in. It's just going to be a safety issue. Just the traffic. It's coming in and people coming up Mountain View Road right there before the entrance to this subdivision. People are gassy. I'm pulling out, and next thing I look back, and there's cars on my bumper. So the traffic it's just ridiculous already. Add more traffic, 300 houses in this little bitty area is just insane.
Thank you for your input.
My name is Bethany Allen. I live in Westridge subdivision, and the concern for me and my neighbors is that we're off of Davis, so Mountain View and then Davis. And when you turn from Davis onto Mountain View, left onto Mountain View, it is extremely dangerous right there because we cannot see. It's a blind hill. And where they're talking about putting this entrance in, it would be right there. So we are already pulling out, when we pull out to go left, which is 99% of the time that we're pulling out of there, we already have to drive in the other lane for just a second to make sure no one's coming and then get over. And I know everyone in my neighborhood does that because it's the only safe way to get out of that intersection. And if we do that, right there is where everyone from that neighborhood will be pulling out. So it's going to create a very dangerous situation for us. And for me personally, I'm thinking about my kids that are about to start driving and that are going to be pulling out right there. And it is very dangerous because people are speeding down Mountain View. When we get in that lane to get over, there's often times when someone goes right past me and I have to get, then I'm able to get over. So it is already a very dangerous situation that's going to be made way worse, in my opinion.
Thank you. Hello?
My name is Kelly Reed. I am also in the West.
You're fine.
And have some of the same concerns. First of all, 5,000 square feet is like the size of some houses in Benton, so just keep that in mind for the whole lot. Also concerned like that this could turn into apartments or duplexes. I don't know if that's possible.
It is not.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that question. There are no sidewalks on Mountain View, so you have new schools there and buses, and now you have new homes. So children walking to and from school are on the road. Very scary. And then just that blind turn. I already have to pull into oncoming traffic to turn out of my subdivision. So if there are now that many more cars coming in my direction, I literally watch cars avoid each other every day because we can't see coming over the hill. So we turn out blind every day. And there's also another hill on this side. So you don't have much time. And now you want to put this neighborhood entrance right there in the middle of both those hills, those blind hills. Just not real smart, in my opinion. And that's about it.
Thank you.
I am Pam Newcomb, and I have lived in Mountain View community, I don't know how many years, okay? A long time. I love progress. I'm in favor of progress. I love the VOTEC school. That's not its terminology, but it's a VOTEC to me. I love the elementary school. I love the middle school. I'm an old retired school teacher. But I'm thinking of my neighbors that are on that end. I'm on down Mountain View Road where it splits. Yeah, it's wild because you could go to the river two ways. And we have a lot of traffic in the summertime with that and a lot of bad traffic. Okay. Again, I'm not opposed to progress, but that many houses on that plot of land is way too much. Now, my husband, my late husband, was also a home builder. And I know you don't want these little rinky-dink houses built, and I'm not saying it's rinky-dink, okay? But it has to be small. So I hope you really consider this, and I want to say again, I am not opposed to progress, but that is too many houses on that plot of land. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Caitlin Bowers. My husband spoke earlier and informed you all that we're building a house on Mountain View Road. We currently live within the town and next to everybody. And one of the things I was most proud of when we decided to build out on Mountain View Road was that my kids were going to be able to admire the trees, the eagles. They were going to get to go to the river without a whole bunch of people on top of them. They were going to get a chance at a childhood that we all remember, but that is going away. My fear is that if we allow 322 homes on such a small amount of property, what's next? There's a lot more land down Mountain View, but I hate to say, yeah, come on in, just for you to take something else from us. There's a lot of people who've been here for a really long time. Their grandkids have been able to see slow growth, and that's great, but I don't want for my children to live in a subdivision next door to 100 people, 200 people, 400 people. I want for them to be able to have space. So that's just my fear, is that if we allow this, what's next?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don Beatty's my name. I live on Mountain View Road. My only concern is there room for a funeral procession to go to that cemetery with 100 cars? No. Shaking your head, no. You see my point? You need room for them cars to come in, to park, turn around without blocking the whole work zone.
Thank you. Very well put. Are there others? If there are none, there are a few things that can happen at this point. Someone can move to approve. It could fail for lack of second, or could fail with no vote. It could be tabled. So at this point, unless you have...
I have something to ask.
Sure,
Chair.
go
Thank
ahead,
you.
go right ahead.
The house I live in is a couple hundred yards from the house I grew up in, so I appreciate folks that are passionate about the place they live. So thank you for all the good feedback and comments. We'd like to request, Mr. Chairman, if we could ask you to table this. We'd like to come back in a month or so with a revised drawing. We can't address every issue that was brought up tonight.
I think this body would need to table it. I think at this point, you would need to withdraw and then come back.
Well, I guess
Is that not correct? Okay.
what I'd like
That's
to, because we'd like to address two major concerns. Number
Sure.
one, density. We'd like to adjust this drawing so that all lots are 7,000 square feet to meet the zone, which is going to in turn reduce the density. That was a major concern we heard sitting in the crowd. Secondly, we want to work on parking for the cemetery. Heard a couple of comments about that, so how we could address that and create a good solution for us and for the folks that utilize the cemetery. We can't help that folks drive fast down Mountain View. There's gonna be some items we can't address, but I think if we could ask you all to table it, we could go back to the drawing board and bring back something that maybe is a little more palatable to you all and to the neighbors.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second? We have a motion to table and a second. Chelsea, if you would please call the roll.
Mark Chilton. Emily Gibson. John Clement. Darrell Wood. Lois Burke. Brett Chumley. Carl West.
We have 8 yes to table. Moving on then to item E, hashtag 001-04759-000 and hashtag again 001-04751-000 for annexation.
This is, two lots that are across the street from Harps on Highway 5 in that area, that is currently not annexed. It's for the Azteca restaurant that is there. They are requesting to be brought in as C3, which is the zones that are over there in that area, and then it'll be part of Ward 5.
I'm the only one left.
State your name and sign the book.
This is Tristan Phillips here representing the owner of the project and Richardson Engineering. So the owner of this property, that's the Azteca restaurant. So that area over there is really, really weird. We just had another annexation a couple months ago. We annexed part of the property over there by the old transmission shop. So that whole area up and down 5 is kind of city here, county there, city here, county there. So the Azteca restaurant's currently in the county, even though there's city kind of all around it. They're on a septic tank, which is, I think, not doing so good. So they're trying to get sewer. So we submitted a plan to Benton Utilities for them to get sewer. So in order for them to provide us sewer, we had to annex into the city. So we are contiguous with the city, with the Harps and everything across the street being contiguous. So we are petitioning for that.
We have a motion and a second. Chelsea, if you'd please call the roll. We have 8 yes for the annexation of item E. Moving on to item 5, other business. Is there other business? Certainly lost our crowd other than Mr. Dave. If there is no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Motion passes. We stand adjourned.